We have a very different culture than Quebec, because Quebec denies all those things, right?
Mark Carney's getting blasted from all sides here. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a pastor who used to be Mark Carney's former neighbor, ripping the guy a new one here. We've got Ezra Levant in Bermuda going to Brookfield's headquarters. This is quite the story. We also got more attacks on Pierre Poilievre from the mainstream media. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got U.S. goods trade balance with major partners. As we see here, if you look at the numbers, they're all very close. The U.S. in a deficit with most countries, except Netherlands, UK, Brazil, and Singapore. One thing to note though, Canada right here, if we took out oil, then we would be on the other side of this. And America makes a ton of money off of our oil. They buy $100 billion, refine it, and then sell it for $300 billion. So really, Canada would be way over here on the right side. Got this one here. Canada is now out of the top 10 countries. The Economist Human Development Index, we're now 16th. We have dropped all the way to the bottom here. We were number one at one point, not anymore. And who's going to continue to push us down that list? Mark Carney. He's asked about his buddy Mike Myers. He keeps quite the company, doesn't he?
Mark Carney, what about your buddy Mike Myers? I heard he was on the Giddy list. What about your buddy Mike Myers?
Yeah, these guys all have something in common, don't they? We got this one from the National Post saying, big kick in the teeth, NDP won't receive campaign reimbursements in hundreds of ridings. So because the NDP performed so badly, they're not getting reimbursed. To receive reimbursement, they have to receive at least 10% of valid votes. The NDP got so little votes, they actually got less than the Bloc. And they ran candidates across Canada, where the Bloc only ran candidates in Quebec. They also have to receive 2% of valid votes cast nationally. And basically, they didn't get enough votes, so they don't get reimbursed. We got this one here showing the number of people leaving Canada and going down to America. What we see here on the bottom is 2022. This is when Justin Trudeau really jacked up immigration and people just started to leave. You can imagine that 23, 24, 25 are all high numbers like this, 126,000. The red number here is born in Canada. Gray is born in America. Born elsewhere is this light blue. Moving on, we've got Judy Trin, CTV's Judy Trin, posting this, how Poilievre's big loss impacts two parliamentary salaries. This is absolute vile journalism. I'm not going to read my comment here because it's a little bit rough. I do call her a useless shill because she is one. You can see this article just goes to talk about Damien Carrick stepping down. He doesn't have his pension yet. He's going to be back in there. Pierre's going to get him a seat later on. That kind of loyalty doesn't go forgotten. It talks about the numbers, 200,000 salary, 99,000 for leader of the opposition, etc. Goes on to say Damien Carrick's got to go back to the farm and work. He's got a wife and kids at home. It is trying to make him seem bad. See right here, Carrick is married with 3 young sons. We know what you're doing here, Judy. We're not stupid. How about you do some digging into Mark Carney, the fact that he dodged $5.3 billion in taxes. This should be headline news every single day until he's thrown out. And we've got news coming from CBC. It says Department of Heritage spent nearly $69,000 to determine whether CBC journalists had their feelings hurt by criticism from conservative politicians and rival media outlets. So while the CBC runs hit pieces on Danielle Smith spending $10,000 to go down to America and meet with Donald Trump, the Liberals are blowing $69,000 to see if these terrible CBC journalists have their feelings hurt. It's funny, the first comment here is saying exactly what I just said. Danielle Smith going down to America. A pillow to cry into would be a lot less than $69,000. We're starting to see stuff like this now. People putting, oh guys, elbows up, really? They're really embracing this, aren't they? I've got news for you. You got Rebel News here interviewing this guy. This guy lived just down the street from Mark Carney in England. Listen to what he has to say here.
Mark Carney lived in the UK for so long. He was your governor of your bank. What do you think of him?
He was my neighbour down the road from me in Swiss Cottage. I didn't realise he was Canadian. I'm shocked that he's been elected as the leader, first and foremost, of the party, and then the leader of the country. I'm like, you live down the road from me in Camden. What are you doing in Canada? So I don't know where his interests are. I don't know what his agenda is, but I'm not sure it's for the people of Canada.
How the UK people perceive that man?
The UK has gotten just as soft as Canada, unfortunately. In America, they're looking at both countries thinking, what are you guys doing? Especially in Canada. You had 4 elections where you voted for the Liberals. Like, throughout COVID, with the trucker contest, you know, the way that they were oppressed and their bank accounts were stolen from them, the forced mandates of medical, the shutting down of free speech, the pushing of MAID on vulnerable people, like the tyranny under Trudeau. And people said, yeah, let's vote for more of that. It's insane. I don't understand it.
Fear.
We don't understand it either, but people are putting elbows up on the back of their vehicle. They're a bunch of brainwashed sheep.
But what are they afraid of?
Trump.
They're more afraid of Trump than they are of this oppressive, tyrannous, communist, Marxist government they've had for the last 4 elections.
Wow, that's well said. The guy was Mark Carney's former neighbor. Father Calvin gets it, he always has. Next up, we got this one coming from Blacklock's reporter saying Parks Canada left 577,000 acres of dead pine as a known fire risk at Jasper prior to 2024 fire with no controlled burns the previous year. Environment Canada blamed climate change for the disaster. So we already knew this, but now we've got an official report on this. Stephen Guilbeault came out and blamed climate change instead of taking responsibility for being a failed minister. Next up, we got Ezra Levant from Rebel News. This is real journalism. Look at this. So he went down to Brookfield in Bermuda. It does exist.
And they published it to their investors that was the principal executive office for not just the $25 billion in environmental funds that I mentioned, but for tens of billions of other funds. Why would you do that? By the way, this looks like an amazing street. There's Flanagan's Irish Pub. There's pubs all the way down here. It's a bit of a party street. Look at that. There's green.
So something to note here, this building that's getting built, here's a better shot of it. Later on, he talks to the guy in the bike shop, and it turns out this is Brookfield's new building here. If we jump ahead, though, he goes up to the 5th floor where Brookfield is located. The guy's gobsmacked. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't want to answer any questions.
Hi. Hi, how are you? Is Jane Shear in, please?
No.
No. What's your name? I'm Ezra Levant from Canada.
Ezra.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Is Jane available?
No, I'm afraid not.
I have a question maybe you could help me with.
Sorry, I can't, no.
No? Is there anyone I can talk to who can...
No, I can get you a...
So we already know who this guy is. This guy here, James Bodie, Managing Director, Legal and Regulatory. He's responsible for managing Brookfield's Bermuda office. You bet he is.
Get you some of our PR people.
Would they really talk to me, though? I don't think they talk.
I don't know. That's all I'm allowed to do, I'm afraid.
Okay. So I'm glad to know that there are some Brookfield people here in Bermuda. It's not just a P.O. box. But is there really the principal executive office for the various funds? I find that hard to believe.
I'm afraid I have no comment, and I can't help you.
Can you tell me what you do here?
No.
What's your name?
No, sorry.
Okay. Well, you'd be polite to talk to me at all. That's more than Mark Carney himself has done. So I won't impose upon you. But I would, perhaps I can take you up on your offer of those corporate spokesmen.
All right, if you could wait for 1 minute.
I will.
I'll see if I can find the information.
Thank you.
So this is smart. It buys him a bit of time to like snoop around and try to look down the hallways. And look at this. This guy's looking at the camera. He knows he's being filmed.
Well, it took so long. It wasn't what I thought.
No, well, you're so helpful.
Suzanne Fleming.
Suzanne Fleming, 212-416.
So he goes on to call Suzanne Fleming. She's completely taken back on the phone.
Hello?
Oh, hi, Suzanne. It's Ezra Levant calling from Rebel News. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. I was just in your Bermuda office, and I spoke to the gentleman there, and he gave me your phone number. Is this a good time to call right now?
It's actually, I'm just actually heading into a meeting. Is there any chance you could send me an email?
Sure. But I only have a couple quick questions, and that really is, I just really have one, actually, which is, we just visited the offices in Bermuda, and there's small offices, and yet your SEC filing says that is actually the principal executive office for various Brookfield asset management companies with $50 billion in assets. So is it true?
So for this,
Yeah.
you're gonna need to send me an email for this.
Okay.
So it's first name dot last name.
She's completely taken back by this. He does send an email. He gets an email back from someone else that basically says nothing. They're not going to give him any information. Either way, this is good journalism, going out there and trying to uncover all this tax dodging coming from Brookfield. Next up, you got to check out this clip from Donald Trump. This is hilarious. Textbook savage Donald Trump. Now, to cue this up, he talks about Pete Buttigieg, this guy, and this is his husband. Now, Pete Buttigieg was the minister or the secretary of transport for Joe Biden. Just remember that. He's transport secretary. With that in mind, listen to what Donald Trump says.
Know very well. There are 3 or 4 of them that do it. And when they took over, Buttigieg who has no clue. You know, he drives to work on his bicycle with his, in all fairness, with his husband on the back, which is a nice, loving relationship. So very well, you know, there are 3 or 4 of them.
It's a loving relationship. That's hilarious. He's taken an extra dig because he was the transport secretary. My wife would never take me to work on a bike, especially in DC, and especially if I were a well-known person. This is wrong in so many ways. Next up, we got this one from Table Salt. It's a new report. We've been talking about this a lot recently. Remember I mentioned the Vancouver Hop On Hop Off tour? Checking out all the Steamy Luigis of Vancouver. Well, this is back in the news because you can see here in 2021, the city of Vancouver reallocated money set for transitional employment to a Steamy Luigi pilot program in which people picked up 13,000 pieces of hot Carls from the downtown area. This program is being brought back in 2025 due to demand. Yuck. There is a video that came out today that I can't show you, but a guy in a Tim Hortons unloaded a massive hot Carl in the corner of a restaurant, in the corner of a Tim Hortons, inside, right behind the chairs. Next up, we got Danielle Smith here on this Real Talk with Ryan Jasperson. She replies to Blanchette's dig the other day, saying that all Alberta has is oil and gas for its identity.
Speak of Yves-François Blanchette's Bloc Québécois leader's comments on a referendum in Alberta, suggesting that you need to identify as a nation, you need a culture, and oil and gas is not culture.
We have a culture in Alberta. We've got a culture of entrepreneurship. We've got a culture that embraces multiculturalism, that has been built from people from all over the world. I think 163 different linguistic groups are represented here and find a way to forge an identity that's both in keeping with their heritage as well as embracing Alberta. We've got an incredible relationship and history with Indigenous partners. We have a very different culture than Quebec, because Quebec denies all those things, right? They are only about language, and I don't think that they accept the broad diversity that we do in Alberta, which I know has created such an incredible place for people around the world to keep on coming to. This is the place you achieve your dreams. This is the place aspirationally where you can build a business, start a family, buy a home. Those are things that you can't necessarily do in every part of the country, and so he's just wrong.
Wow, shots fired. She's dropping the hammer on Blanchette. Next up, we got a video coming out of Danielle Smith building relationships in Japan and Korea, expanding Alberta's business.
Alberta truly is Canada's economic powerhouse and has no limit when it comes to opportunity. So my wish for today is that we make new connections, we begin exciting conversations in this room that take root and flourish in the days and weeks and years ahead.
It's really nice to watch this, and it's not Justin Trudeau's pompous mug just making a fool of Canadians on the world stage.
I look around the room, I am struck by just how many representatives are committed to fostering even stronger ties between Alberta and Korea, ties that bind our long history of friendship and pave the way for more mutually beneficial cooperation in key sectors like energy and agri-food, forest products, and so many more. Alberta may be best known for its abundant energy resources, but we are so much more than that. Our government is committed to making our province North America's destination of choice.
With Japanese companies.
There's a couple of posters. I hope that we can build new relationships and identify new partnerships in our industries, because when it comes to partnering with Alberta, those opportunities are endless.
That's how to get it done. That's what we need to do right now. Just think of all the years. What has Justin Trudeau actually done out on the world stage? Nothing. He just made a fool of himself. With that said, in honor of Justin Trudeau, we haven't heard much of him in a while. Let's bring back one of his greatest moments where he tripped over this flower pot. It just gets funnier over time. We got Marty up north posting this one. He's talking about Alberta separation and how it's not a straightforward process. There were a lot of things that would be involved. It would take years, and he's right. You know, they'd have to negotiate land issues, treaties, share of the debt, citizenship, currency, as well as Alberta would have to deal with its own police force, its own taxation system, its own currency. The negotiation could last years, and that's just the truth of it. When it comes down to it, Quebec has been using separation as a way to squeeze more out of the Liberal government, and at this point, I think it's smart for Alberta to do the same. Get them to get rid of the emissions cap, Bill C-69, all these stupid things that hinders Alberta. In other news, we got Kirk posting this one. It says, in today's episode of Canada's justice system is a joke. We've got Gurbinder Singh was driving 120 kilometers an hour in a 30 zone, slammed into a car and ending a pastor. The judge dismissed the charge against Singh because his mental health was impaired. You see, Singh claims that he began to hear voices the day before the accident, so he got a few pills and he was sent free. Singh never even bothered to apologize to the family. I have some opinions on this. I can't share them on this platform. I think Singh is a bad man. Got this story going around here. It says a press briefing by police about 2 kids missing starts with land acknowledgements. Canada is lost.
I am Corporal Carly McCann, Provincial Public Information Officer for the Nova Scotia RCMP. Thank you all for being here today. First, I acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I also recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years.
This is absurd. So this press conference goes on to talk about missing kids in Nova Scotia, and they waste time with this. What if it came down to a few minutes and somebody heard about this on the radio or on the news and they knew something, then they're too busy dilly-dallying with all this land acknowledgement versus actually getting to what the real problem is, kids missing. They want to do those land acknowledgements at certain things, whatever, but not when it comes to breaking, pressing news. Moving ahead here, we've got Chris Stacey on Parliament Hill for the 28th National March for Life.
I want to talk to you about what compassion is. In Canada, they tell us that compassion means we have to kill people. Oh, we're so compassionate that we'll send mates into people's houses to kill them.
I have to remove a bunch of words in here because they keep saying the K-I-L-L word.
When's the last time you had a doctor come to your house to give you a house call for medical care?
I can't put this in here. There's way too many words that aren't allowed on this platform. Today I was doing the unthinkable. I was watching CBC and they were pointing out that Mark Carney has leeway right now because Pierre Poilievre isn't in the House yet, which will likely come around beginning of September or middle of September. And the Bloc has already come out and giving leeway to Mark Carney as well for the first year. And the NDP don't have a leader. Mark Carney's got free reign to kind of do what he wants. With all that said, will Mark Carney be able to handle Donald Trump's tariffs? Will he open up provincial trade? What will he do in his first 100 days? Will he lay the groundwork for more of his net zero agenda?